there's a lot, if you take a look at the Bible, there's a lot of imagery that shows God and Jesus as the Good Shepherd. And God is the ultimate shepherd. And the shepherd is the one who owns the sheep, who cares for the sheep, right? Who loves the sheep. And as we see in Jesus, as the one who would even lay down his life for the sheep. And that's what it means to be the shepherd. And throughout history, kings and leaders were called to be shepherds of their people. So that there's a high kind of a leadership type image related to being a shepherd. And David was one of those models. David is known as the shepherd king because he himself was as a little boy, was a shepherd to sheep, and then he becomes king, and he kind of took care of his people the same way he took care of his sheep. And then he really loved them, and he became known as the shepherd king. And of course, one of the most famous scripture passages of a shepherd comes from Psalm 23, written by, of course, David, who was familiar and understood the responsibilities and also the passion of what it meant to be a shepherd over his sheep. And I want to share that passage with you. And as we read this passage, I want to invite you to kind of begin to imagine that relationship between a shepherd and sheep. Because it takes that imagination on our part to understand this relationship. Because if you look around this room, let me ask you guys, how many of you guys are shepherds of sheep? As a job? Not that many of us. It's not an occupation that's practiced where we are. Right? So it takes our imagination. So as we read this passage, kind of think about that relationship and what it meant for a shepherd to take care of the sheep and for the sheep to rely on that shepherd. And David is a person who knew that. And he writes these words calling God his shepherd. He says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long." When we read that passage, one of the things that really stands out for me is that God, the Good Shepherd, really wants the sheep, all of us, to live the good life. He does. God does. God wants us to live a good life. And we know that by the phrases and the words that were used in that passage. I shall not want, meaning I shall be lacking nothing, right? Lie in green pastures. Still waters restores my soul. Right paths. No fear. Comfort me. Table before me. Anoint my head. My cup overflows. Goodness and kindness will follow me all the days of my life. God's house, meaning live in the house of the Lord my whole life long. But I think when we read those words, a lot of times what happens is that we get so caught up and we're so influenced by our world and the people around us that we read into these words our personal thoughts or our personal desires. When people read the first one, I shall not want, what a lot of people think that this is saying is that they will have everything they want. Right? Things will just overflow in their life. For example, house. Oh, I'm going to have a great house. I'm going to have a great car. I'm going to have love and passion in my life. Significant other. And I'm going to have money. Not just some money, I'm going to have piles of money. Right? Why? Because I shall not want. Why shall I not want? Because I will have it all. That's what we're thinking. But I believe that what David was truly saying when he said, I shall not want, is that I will trust God to give me everything I need. For David, it was a matter of trusting God in his day-to-day life. Meaning, for David, I will not want anything else because I know in my heart that nothing else can satisfy me. That nothing else is as good as God in my life. That's, for David, that's living the good life. When people hear the second one, lie down in green pastures, what a lot of people think that is saying is that they will be able to live a life of luxury and leisure. Right? Green pastures. Oh, green grass feels so good. Right? We can't wait till the summer comes around. I don't know, maybe we'll have a couple days in August. When we can feel the grass, it feels so good. Luxury and leisure. That's what we're thinking. Oh, I can go to Hawaii, luxury, leisure. I can eat all I want and I will not get fat. Right? That's a life of luxury and leisure. You know, I love to eat. My wife loves to eat. Jack knows that. I ran into them in a restaurant. They know how much I eat. My wife loves to eat. My kids love to eat. My wife thought she could eat anything she wants. You know, my daughters, they're skinny, they have high metabolism, they can eat and drink anything they want. My daughter, literally, younger daughter, eats like 5 times a day and has snacks in between. And she's still like under 100 pounds, right? And they love to drink this juice called Pog. Have you guys ever had that? Pog? It's like, I don't know, it's all like mixed flavor. It's like a mixed flavor fruit drink. And it's like probably 50% sugar, right? But it tastes great. And my wife was like, oh, that tastes good. I'll just have a little glass in the morning. I'll have a little glass in the evening. And after a week, she goes, oh my gosh, I gained weight. Right? The reality is, hey, you know what? You lay around, you eat all you want, you're going to get fat. Right? You're going to gain some weight. I'm not going to tell you how much she gained weight, but she gained a little weight. Now I got to stop drinking that Pog. You know, David is a person who understood luxury and leisure. He was a king. He not only had just riches of one individual, he had the riches of a kingdom. He had the riches of the world. He not only had one beautiful wife, he had women from all over the world. Kingdoms were sending him their most beautiful women, their most gorgeous art, their best gold, best wood, best everything. He had it all. But for David, even in the midst of all of that, he knew that that was not what was going to help him to green pasture. For him, peace and rest was something that he could only find in God. That only God could provide for him in his life. It wasn't the women. It wasn't all of this other stuff. It was God. And that's why he says, he's the one that helps me to lie down in green pasture. I really believe that peace and rest is something that we need to redefine in our life. It's not just what we do on the outside. When we get to Hawaii, laying on the beach, just to say in our mind, oh, I'm in Hawaii. I have a time of peace and rest. You know what? Even when you go to Hawaii, unless you understand where God is in your heart, you're not going to have peace and rest at all. You're not. I've been to Hawaii. I love Hawaii. If I don't go to Hawaii with God, it's battle time in Hawaii. Because I drive, my wife navigates. Can you imagine what happens? Hawaii itself is not that big, right? But we will be lost. We won't get to the hotel. It's like 1-2 highway to the hotel. We can't get there. Right? It's not the place. It's not what happens on the outside of our life that brings us peace and rest. But it is understanding in our hearts where God is. That no matter what we're going through, that when we turn to Him, in Him there is peace and rest. John 14, later on in the Gospel of John, when Jesus knows that things are going to get rough for those people who follow Jesus. And He looks at the disciples and goes, dang it, they're going to have a hard time. Some parts of their life, it's not going to be easy. And Jesus shares these words with the disciples. He says, you guys, I want you to know, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give as the world gives. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Meaning, don't let all this other stuff just burden your heart. Don't let all this other stuff pull your desires toward it. And He goes on to say, do not let your heart be afraid. Don't let your heart be afraid that when you don't have these things, that your life's not complete. It's not true. Don't let your heart be afraid that you can't find peace, that you can't find goodness in life. That's what Jesus was reminding His followers. There's a song written about this verse. Do you guys know that song? I want to invite you guys, as you live each day this week, in the midst of all of your chaos, busyness, headaches, to remember where your peace comes from. There's a song that goes, my peace. Hey, I need some help. You guys know this song? My peace I give unto you. It's an old classic, right? It's a peace that the world cannot give. It's a peace that the world cannot understand. Peace to know, peace to live. My peace I give unto you. That's Jesus' message to all of us. Hey, I know your life can get crazy, but remember, it's me. It's with me that you will find peace. And I really believe that's living the good life. That's living the good life. You know, the Bible paints this picture of what a good shepherd is in the Old Testament, and the relationship between a shepherd and the sheep. But when we get to Jesus, I believe He changes this imagery of the shepherd. There is this Old Testament understanding of the shepherd and the sheep, but when we get to Jesus and He talks about the shepherd, it begins to change. And I want to share a passage with you in which that happens. It comes from the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verses 1 through 10. And I want to invite you guys, as I read this, think about how Jesus is changing this. And He says, very truly I tell you, anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the gate, but climbs in by another way, is a thief and a bandit. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all of his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him, because they know his voice. They will not follow a stranger, but they will run from him, because they do not know the voice of the stranger. Jesus used this figure of speech with them, but they didn't